Man, we are rolling along. Erik, we're into week 12 this week. NFL week 12. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. We're actually watching this on the That's What G Said YouTube channel. And we appreciate you if you're listening on the podcast. Also, we'll go full screen just so you can get a look at all the games as we take a look through them. Erik, my friend, couple pretty fun games last week. We saw the Chiefs lose for the first time. Your Lions, I believe, for the first time ever, did I hear this right? They are the Super Bowl favorites right now?
Yep, first time ever.
Wow. So a little bit of shifting as the Lions now kind of have a stronghold in the NFC. We're going to be a little quicker this week, early in the week. Remember, catch us on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll go through all the games then. You can also catch Erik's podcast later in the week. Erik has one on Tuesday, another one that comes out on the weekend. And then Sundays we'll have NFL Betting Blitz. You can also make sure to check out Boom Fantasy if you want to set some lineups and get some nice action there. Erik, buddy, Thursday night football, Steelers at the Browns. So Pittsburgh comes off their big win against the Ravens. They play the Ravens really, really well. That was huge for them. A game that really could have gone either way. It wasn't as if Pittsburgh was incredible offensively. They just seemed to kind of have the number of Baltimore in that matchup. Feels like a really nice kind of Cleveland spot as a 3.5-point dog at home. Cleveland's been really bad. They just got crushed by the Saints last week. Hill went wild on them. And everybody's probably kind of flipping now. We just saw the Steelers get a big win. Feels like the high, sell high, sell right. What we talk about all the time, playing the stock market here. You're going to buy low.
Buying low, selling high. I gave this one out Tuesday on my show. Browns plus 3.5. Tomlin, 48%. ATS is a favorite. Road favorite, 46. Road favorite, 3.5 or more, 39.1. As a favorite after beating the Ravens, 40%. Last 20 years, teams that lost by 20 or more, 54% against the number, 3.5% ROI when they're dogs, 55.2%, 6.9% ROI. Home dogs, 55.1%, 6.7% ROI.
I mean, I'm
really just bet the Ravens. They have the Bengals at home next week. So the spot and the trends are telling me to bet the Browns. Steelers do allow the 18th most passing yards per game. Middle of the road, 15th PFF pass coverage. So I think Winston's going to be able to pass the ball here. Chubb historically has played well against the Steelers. He has looked better each game coming back. I think he's going to in line for another good game. Doesn't look like Highsmith is going to go. And the Steelers defense historically does struggle when he doesn't play. Steelers offensive line is graded poorly in PFF in pass blocking. Wilson struggles when facing pressure. I think Garrett is going to be able to get home. I think Garrett's going to be matched up a lot with Broderick Jones, who's the worst graded pass blocker. So I'll play the spot. I bet the Browns plus the 3.5.
Same side with you. We're on this one, no doubt about it. It just feels like you have to be on the Brown side here. We go to the Lions at the Colts. This felt to me like another one where Lions respect the heck out of them. I don't disagree with them being the Super Bowl favorite, especially in the NFC. I think they're head and shoulders above everyone else. But now that's really going to start getting built into all of these lines. Now, again, you're a 7.5-point favorite on the road because they just destroyed Jacksonville last week. They absolutely crushed a team, right? They had 645 total yards last week. You just always feel like off of games like that, teams are going to regress a little bit. And for the Colts now, when they have Richardson back there, they have a couple different guys that can run the ball, that can slow the clock down, just a few less slow the game down, few less possessions. Richardson was impressive late in the game when they needed the drive. He's still going to make bad throws. He's terribly inconsistent with throwing the ball, but if they lean on him running the ball a little bit more, he does seem a little better now than he was a few weeks ago. This to me just felt like another spot that over 7, I would be on the Colts side here.
Yeah, I gave this one out on my show as well. Colts plus 7.5. Gambling, buying low, selling high. Value of the Lions all-time high right now. Betting favorites to win the Super Bowl, coming off a 52-6 win over the Jaguars. Teams after scoring 52 points are 45% against the number. Teams on an 8-game winning streak, 39%. Teams after they won by 38 or more, 39% ATS. When they're favorites, that drops down to 37. When they're road favorites, that drops down to 33. Shane Steichen, one of the best coaches against the numbers, 60.7% ATS. At the end of the day, what do the Lions like to do? They like to run the ball. Colts have Buckner and Stewart. I think they're going to be able to stop the run, get some pressure on the Lions. And the two games that Goff had the most trouble with were against the Titans and the Bucks, who have some good defensive lines, who are good against the run. That's when Goff has struggled the most. So there's definitely a blueprint there for the Colts to have some success on the defense. The Lions' offensive scheme is to filter the middle of the field, the slot. Wide receiver is the focal point, hence why Brown and Laporta do so well. But when we look at the defense of the Colts, Moore, who's the best corner, plays the slot. PFF graded third best cornerback, so I think that's a good matchup for the Colts. Richardson is a quarterback I'd like to take as a dog. He can extend plays with his feet, throw the ball downfield. Arnold's having a bad year. I think the Colts will look to explore him. PFF graded DB 98. Roberson's PFF graded 101, and he is their nickel back. Lions elite. Branch, Joseph, great at the safeties, but at the DBs with Davis, Arnold, and Robertson, Lions can be exploited.
And they're a little banged up in the middle now, right, too, losing a little depth at the linebacker spot.
Yeah. Lions have, the Thanksgiving Day on deck. I'm just going to play the Colts here plus a 7.5. But if I wouldn't play anything lower than 7.
Completely agree. That was the buy-in point for me. Honestly, once I got the hook, that was when I jumped in. 7.5. Like 7, I would still be on the Colts side, but I'm not dying to go play it. It's the half that gives you the advantage there. I think that's the real key. This next game, Eric, I kind of hemmed and hawed with a little bit because with Kansas City, they were a team that was undefeated, but should have lost 3 or 4 times throughout the year. So they were a little lucky. And that we always talk about is something that generally regresses to the mean. You'll have things even out. Yes. So I wonder with Kansas City, is it a situation where they kind of got one of those games out of the way last week, or there might still be a couple of them to come? Maybe they're not quite as good as we thought. Or is this a game where it's kind of an inferior opponent and they might be able to impose their will against them, and they may kind of like want to go out there and prove a little something after losing last week? I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit. I generally stay away when that's the case. What do you think about how this game plays out?
I mean, if the Chiefs would have won that game, I would be hammering the Panthers in this spot.
Me too.
Mahomes on the road laying over 3 is 42%. But when it gets up to 7.5, that number drops down to 23%. Mahomes on the road against a team with a 350 winning percentage or worse is only 23%. So he's not covering against bad teams.
In these spots, yeah.
Flip side, double-digit road favorites are 5-0. Double-digit favorites are 5-0 ATS this season, but this is the first one on the road. So, I mean, they're not going to go undefeated, so there's bound to be one coming due for a little regression with that stat because they're not going to go undefeated the whole season.
Panthers did have a couple straight wins before their bye, right? They were playing a little better.
The Eagles. Chiefs are kind of giving me Eagles vibes from last year. A team that was winning games that are not looking that good. It wouldn't surprise me if they hit a little bump in the road.
Yeah, me too.
Coming back for the Panthers, that's going to give them another weapon to go along with Hubbard. Panthers have a top 10 offensive line in the league. They should be able to give Young time. They should have some success running the ball. That's the strength of the Panthers. And it's the strength of the Chiefs defense. So whoever's going to win that point of attack, I tend to lead to the Panthers there. But are the Panthers going to be able to get enough stops at the end of the day? That's the million-dollar question because their defense is so bad. Panthers offense did look better against the Giants. I kind of want to take the Panthers, but I'm just going to kind of wait a little bit and see how this one moves.
I agree. The Vikings Bears is the next spot we head to. Vikings are a 3.5-point road favorite in this one. So another kind of do or die-ish spot for the Bears where they, they probably should have won that game last week. Their coaching staff overall, I just don't love. And you could tell their weaknesses are, but that was a better bounce back game for Caleb. He played better in that game. You just don't know what this Bears team is, really who they are. The Vikings, they won at Tennessee last week. They've quietly won 3 in a row again. So they're now back up to 8-2. And for as impressive as the Lions have looked, no doubt they look the best. they just got to be careful, Eric, right? They can't take their foot off the gas because there are a couple teams that are not far behind them at all in the NFC.
Yeah. They can't. They got to keep plugging along. I think that's why they're kind of running up the scores and everyone, so that way they don't lose focus.
Yep.
In terms of this game, I gave this one out on my show as well. Bears plus the 3.5. Who the heck is Sam Darnold to be laying points on the road in a divisional matchup?
More than a field goal also, right? Like a point and a half if you're going to give me a close one, but you're telling me 3.5, that's still a lot for him.
Yeah. Career 44% against the number, favorite 38%. There's been a switch in the way defenses are playing the Vikings. They're stacking the box, forcing Darnold to throw the ball more, take Jones away. The last 4 games, his TD to INT ratio is 1 to 1.4. The first 5 games, it was 1 to 3. So he's turning the ball over a lot more. For as bad as a coach as Eberflus is, he can coach defense. Bears have a top 10 defense in the league. I think they're going to be able to take Aaron Jones away, force Darnold to beat him. They have Jalen Johnson, who is one of the better lockdown corners. He should be able to take Justin Jefferson away. The big thing that Thomas Jones was able to do to make the offensive line and Williams better, 1, pre-snap motion, making it easier for Williams to determine the coverage. 2, get the ball out of Williams' hands faster. What does that do? Less time for the O-line to block, less time for Williams to read the field and overthink. Not giving him too many reads. They're like, look, 2 reads. If it's not there, just run the ball.
Yep.
And he
did this at
better.
USC in his senior year too, because he gets too inside of his own head. Like you're saying, like he doesn't need, just take the stuff. That's like one of the things that Tom Brady, why he's the greatest, if not one of the, he just took the reads that were there, right? You just don't have to take the 5 yards, take the 6 yards. When Caleb starts doing that more, they'll be better. The matchup that just concerns me a little bit is the one that you were just hitting on, is if you play the Bears and you lose this game or this doesn't go well for us, it's probably because the offensive line against the Vikings D, right, are trying to solve that riddle.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're getting the ball in his hands quick, I mean, that's kind of the key. You know, they lined up DJ more in the slot more, and that's the weakness of the Vikings defense. St. Brown, 8 for 112 against them. I think they're going to look to attack here with DJ Moore. And also, Jones made everyone accountable. Nate Davis claimed he was hurt, needed to sit out. What they do, they cut him. Road divisional favorites laying 3.5 or less, 45% against the number when they're laying 3.5 or 6.5, between 3.5 and 6.5, 44%. I just like what I'm seeing from these changes in the offense from the Bears. And there was a small play that happened. Keenan Allen historically has got hurt and left every game. He got hurt. He was right back out there the next game. Caleb Williams went in front of the team, and he took accountability for the way he was playing. I really like what I'm seeing from the Bears, and it pays me to say that. I'm going to take them plus the 3.5 here.
Yeah, that feels like the side, again, in this one. We get to the Cowboys at Washington. Man, looking at these teams, the Cowboys just get crushed. They've trailed by at least 20 points in 6 straight home games, dating back to last year's wild card weekend loss to Green Bay. That's an NFL streak. I mean, they weren't really good at all last week against Philly, and then they moved the ball better. Cooper Rush had 354 yards, but they had him throw 55 passes in the game. And not to be like, overly dramatic, but the sky was actually falling at AT&T Stadium in that game. Eric, there were pieces of the sky falling down. A metal piece from the roof forced officials to have a little bit of a delay. They were looking at it, and they're just not in great shape right now, obviously. But Washington, who was really impressive early in the season, we've seen them struggle a little more against the better opponents the last few weeks. And again, probably a little more, even more to do with just film being out on the rookie, finding ways to stop them. And Washington's defense isn't that good. They played okay for a stretch of games, and Quinn kind of had these guys playing over their head a little bit, but they're not a really talented defensive team, Eric, right? So it's almost like, okay, now they're kind of coming back to life a little bit. So when I look at this game, 10 seems massive. I mean, I can't get excited to play Dallas. The one thing I was looking at for on the Commander side was just the bounce back game possibility for Terry Mack, who just, had the bad game last week. We saw him with just 1 reception for 10 yards. He had 2 targets in that game. I mean, normally he's much more involved. He had 100 yards in 3 of the 5 games before that. So I'm just looking at this being one of those games where, hey, we're going to get him involved in 3 times on the first drive. I could see that happening. I could see him being like a first-time TD or like an anytime TD, or I look to play him a little bit in this game. But with this number, I definitely am not laying it with Washington. I'd be more on the Dallas side, but can you play it with what you've seen from Dallas recently? Or could this be a game where like Washington just beats up on them like they did with bad opponents earlier in the year?
The last 10 games, guess how many 1-score games there's been in this series?
9? None.
1.
What? So they're blowouts every time.
They've been blowouts. And what's the interest level in the Cowboys? Lamb, Diggs partying after they lose to the Texans. Daniels, he struggled facing pass rushes. Parsons is here. Is he going to be able to disrupt Daniels enough? Can the Cowboys move the ball? Commanders are 29th DVOA and PFF defending the run. But this Cowboys run game has just been awful. 31st best running attack per PFF, the 19th best running blocking per PFF. What's going on with Lattimore and his hamstring? Is he going to be there to try to guard Lamb? Can Rush make plays? Look, there was a fumble and an offensive lineman had it, dropped it, and the Texans returned it, and that's how they covered the game. They had no business covering that in the game. Cowboys did look a little feisty, but you have bad leadership with McCarthy.
I mean, all the rumors are Dion and Shadur, and like there's just nothing positive coming out of there right now.
It's tough to get.
Yeah.
And there's much more I want to do
than play Dallas. Yeah. We just went through 3 games out of the first 4 where we kind of like the dog side. Yeah. Right? I mean, we like all those games a little bit better than this one. It's not like I'm jumping to tell you to go lay Washington, but I don't know if I can get there quite yet with Dallas right now. I'd rather play maybe a prop or something in this game and look elsewhere. It's DeVito time. Tommy Cutlets. Erik, I saw you posting too. Like there was there was like a hot take, like why he was playing and not Locke. It's like, well, there's incentives they don't want to have to pay, and this team just wants to lose more games. They don't even really want to be better in this spot now. They don't want to win. They're better being bad, losing, and just getting the number 1 pick.
It's going to be Locke after this. Like if Locke played this game, there's all these contract incentives they would get. And they're just, why do they want to win? I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're trying to get the team as good as it can. My prediction when we did your show at the beginning of the year was that they would be one of the worst teams and tank for Arch Manning, not this draft, the following draft.
Yep.
I think they're just going to look to get some offensive linemen, look to build that core, maybe look to add another. There's a couple good wide receivers, look to add another wide receiver. First, Bulls 46% ATS on the road. As a favorite, he's 47% ATS. Mayfield 37% ATS. But we're kind of talking, what exactly is this motivation for this Giants team?
I know.
Like when you have these guys out there, they're really going to go all out. The strength of the offense for the Giants to run the ball. The Bucks are 11th DVOA defending the run. Are they going to be able to get Tyrone Tracy and everyone going? Do you trust DeVito against a Bulls defense? For as much as we want to give Todd Bowles shit, he is a great DC. Do you trust the Bucks to win with some margin? Mike Evans limited in practice today. Is he going to be playing? Look, I don't. This is another game. I'm just not rushing to bet it.
Either way, I know.
I'm just going to step back. I just don't want anything to do with it. Maybe look to play an under, but this is just a pass for me.
2 teams coming off the bye, just no real feel for this one either. Patriots are a 7-point dog on the road at Miami. Miami team that's looked a little more competent recently. Obviously, the offense is playing better, but when they played the Raiders last week, it was 24-19 with 4 minutes and 35 seconds left to go in the game. And then they scored like a really weird 10 points in the last 4 minutes of the game.
Honest, like the Raiders had no timeouts left.
Yeah.
3 minutes and 13 seconds left. Any offensive coordinator with a brain is going to be calling a run play there.
Yep.
Mike McDaniel, job security's down, calls a pass play, broken coverage, touchdown,
70 yards, goes back the other way. They get another field goal.
And then two fumbles. So that's kind of a fraudulent one. And they had another one right before it. So in my eyes, the Dolphins are coming off back-to-back fraud type wins when you look at the box score.
And the Patriots have been a lot more feisty.
Yeah. Why is Jonnu Smith leading the Dolphins in targets? Why? What happened to Waddle? Waddle had 3 targets last game. Since May has taken over, Henry has averaged 7 targets, 5 receptions, 52 yards a game. Miami is 21st DVOA defending the tight end. So there's a hole there. There's something that they can attack. But we need to question, is the Patriots defense going to be able to get stops? And when you look at how Hill has struggled against Gonzalez, the DB, I think they're going to be able to get some stops. Home divisional favorites, 46% ATS the last 20 years, laying 6 or more, 47% against ATS. May is the type of quarterback I like. May is going to be able to extend plays. He's going to be able,
especially on a bad team, as a dog, as like a big dog. Like,
I'm from, in my eyes, he was the best quarterback in the draft, and nothing has changed my eyes.
He's been in probably as bad of a situation as any of them, as far as the talent around them and the staff. And he's looked.
A 7.5 popped on FanDuel. So I mean, this is one of those ones. It's going to go back and forth between 7 and 7.5. I mean, I am going to take the Patriots eventually, but I'm just going to kind of be waiting around for it.
I agree. The Texans host the Titans. Texans are an 8-point favorite in this game. They got up 14-0 against the Cowboys, and then they got kind of stagnant. It sort of was like a microcosm of their season where they'll have some okay moments, but they don't look as good or as dominant as we've kind of all wanted them to. It was only 20-10 to start the fourth quarter. The Dallas fumbled, and the Texans returned for a touchdown to make it 27-10. So it just kind of – then they got one more score afterwards. It wasn't quite as dominant or impressive as it might look. Stroud hasn't been all that great. I mean, the Texans were only 3 of 11 on third down in that game. There's a lot of negativity around Bobby Slowick, who was really good last year. I don't think it's like fire him moment, but he's definitely not been – pushing the right buttons or pulling the strings like he was last year, but they're still 7-4. Do we know the health of Will Anderson for this game?
We don't know. He missed the last game
because man, they could not get that much of a pass rush consistently without him. Early they did, but then like late in the game, it wasn't probably good enough to beat good teams. And this Titans team, even at 2-8, they're still competitive. Their defense is really good, and that's what would scare me in a game like this that's so big, because the Titans can keep this a close game as long as they don't get a big mistake from Levis. They can also run the ball. So the two things you would want for a big dog to keep a game close, good defense, and can they run the ball? The Titans can do those things.
Yeah, like I look at this as this is the stat that blew my mind. The Titans have allowed the second fewest passes over 20 yards this season and allowing the lowest deep ball completion percentage. I mean, I read that stat and that totally blew my mind.
Yeah.
And the defensive line is going to be able to limit the run of Mixon. Now, Nico Collins is back. Obviously, he can give space for Mixon to run. But with how good the Titans defense is, it's going to be limiting how the pass game with Collins, the deep threats, Mixon running the ball. If the Titans offense was better, I would be all over the Titans here. Yeah. I do not trust Will Levis. How are they going to be able to move the ball?
I know.
Ridley has been great the last 6 games. Texans are 23rd DVOA defending wide receiver 1. But do we trust Will Levis to make the throws? I have been on this team 3 times, and I've got burnt every single time, and they are on my do not bet list. I am very intrigued to take them because I think there's some I think there's some locker room issues with the Texans. There was one play when C.J. Stroud got knocked down, and not one person from the offensive line came over to help him up, and he got himself up. Larry Tonsil, the offensive lineman, he got knocked down. The whole offensive line ran over to pick him up. You know what I mean? it's really weird when we don't see the offensive line
Absolutely.
or someone going over to help. So that just kind of stood out to me. I want to be on the Titans here. I just don't know if I can trust them enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it feels like a week where we're liking a lot of these dogs. Sometimes you have to pick which ones, right? Because we go through these games, it's like, dang, okay, now we went through 7 or 8, and it's like we've been on the underdog side pretty strongly on a lot of them. And most times it's not always that simple, but you just got to remember it's probably not going to be all of them one week where you have to pick and choose in your head. Okay, how would I set it up? Okay, this could be a week where it's like 8-6 or what, 13 games. It could be, 7-6. This week it could be 9-4, whatever it's going to be. But in your head, make sure you're doing that like you would do with the season over unders, or you would do with win totals and things like that too. So, Eric, we go to the divisional game, Broncos at the Raiders. Raiders 6-point home dog now. Broncos played really well last week. They should have beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. And again, Bo Nix looked pretty competent, pretty solid last week. Threw for 300 yards. They beat Atlanta 38-6. And for the Raiders, Bowers is a monster. 13 receptions last week for 126, just breaking records all over for rookie tight ends, for rookie receivers, targets, all sorts of stuff. I mean, I'm not able to lay it with the Broncos. This is another one, though.
Yeah, this is another one I think we just have to wait because I think there's going to be
7
Bronco money coming in.
7.5 was where we would probably jump or start thinking about it.
High. Is there a team? I mean, the Broncos and the Lions right now are the two most overvalued teams in the league. Knicks, a lot of rookie of the year talk. Broncos, dark horse to maybe come out of the AFC. When you watch the tape on Knicks, the one thing that kind of sticks out to me is he moves his feet too much.
Yeah, like happy feet. Exactly. Yeah.
In the box.
Because there's noticeable when on a few of the plays when he doesn't, it's noticeable. But he's very still not quite comfortable. And he's doing well for that. But you're right. Like you see these little habits that you worry about against maybe better competition. Bill, I don't always love some of the Simmons terms, whatever. He calls them like the good, bad team, where if you put the Broncos in a room with another team that's not very good, the Broncos are going to beat them because they have a solid defense and their offense is okay. But once they level up, they're not quite there yet. It's not a bad, determination for who they are.
Teams that won by 32 or more points are 43% against the number the following week. Favorites, it gets down to 41. Road favorites down to 37. When they're divisional road favorites, 35. Laying 4 more on the road, 46%. And we look at the Vance Joseph defense. What is the position they really struggle to defend? The tight ends. And who should win Rookie of the Year but is not going to because he plays for the Raiders? Brock Bowers. I'm gonna be heavy in Bowers and DFS. I'm gonna be on the Raiders here. To me, it's just kind of one of those spots in a situation where you have to take the Raiders here. But I'm gonna wait because I think, like I said, this is 6. It's probably gonna go up to 6.5. You just kind of wait for that spot, wait for the 7. If the 7 doesn't come, just play the 6, 6.5. But I don't see this dipping anything under 5.
No,
5.5 even.
We move to a really big divisional game that is now basically a pick'em. We have the Cardinals at the Seahawks. Seattle might have saved their season with that win last week. So they're 5-5. They're just 1 game behind Arizona. And these two teams play each other 2 of the next 3 weeks. So, I mean, this division could look way different. A lot of stuff could happen. Or at the end of Sunday, the entire division could be 6-5. Like that, or they could all have 5 losses.
Yeah, so this is division of mediocrity. This is like the old NFC East.
Because nobody's bad, but the teams that you were hoping to maybe be a little better, like the Rams or the 49ers, they've had a lot of injuries, and it's been the Cardinals who have kind of really leveled up.
Cardinals have been looking good.
A little bit here, and they're coming off a bye now.
Yeah.
So they really hold their, right now, they have the lead, and they have the ability to control their own destiny.
And when you look at it, most people would say, hey, let's fade the Seahawks here. Big win. But teams, after upsetting a divisional foe on the road, are 60% against the number. So they have been covering, but then again, this is basically just a pick 'em game. Seattle's 18th DVOA defending the tight end. Are they going to be able to stop McBride? McBride, in my eyes, is the best tight end in the game right now. And I think that's really the matchup the Cardinals have looked to exploit. Everyone thought it was going to be this Marvin Harrison show. But what is it? It's James Conner running the ball, who's having a great season that no one is talking about, and McBride just making insane catch and being the chain mover. When we look at this thing, divisional dogs getting 2.5 or less on the road, 56% ATS. Seattle 22nd against the run. Like I said, Connor is having a great season. Are they going to be able to stop it? Why is a DK Metcalf getting more targets? When you look at all these weapons Seattle's have, and their offense constantly struggles. And to me, that's more of a Geno Smith thing.
He's kind of up and down, right? Like he'll have great moments.
I have Cards futures. So with that being said, why am I?
You don't need to get involved.
Why am I going to get involved here? So I'm just.
I think if you wanted to play Seattle I agree with you. Like, this is a tough game for me because last week kind of felt like they're weak. They got back. They got a big win. Are they going to be let down? But how are they going to have a letdown when it's a huge divisional game like this? Yeah. And they still got a lot on the line.
At home and Murray historically struggles against off the bye. Murray historically struggles on the road. And there's so much to like about this Cards team. Like, so much to like.
They played really in their staff. I like them. I agree. But
trending in the right direction. They got the DC. They're adding players in the offensive line.
I just don't know there's value right now either way.
There's
right?
none.
That's the problem. Because so if you like the Cardinals or whatever, that's fine. But to me, there's no value.
Seattle, the bet is to bet them to win the division.
Yeah, that's a good call. Okay, 3 more games to discuss. One more on the Sunday slate, and then Sunday night and Monday night. Eric, we got the 49ers at the Packers now. Packers are a 2-point favorite in this one. Packers coming in off the game against Chicago where blocked field goal saved them, and now they've beat the Bears 11 times in a row, but they didn't really play all that well. It was kind of like a nice example of who they are, because offensively there's never really the one guy you can count on for them, but there's just a bunch of different guys like Christian Watson. He had 4 catches for 150 yards. He only had 27 targets coming into the game, but a couple really big plays. Jordan Love, though, something that you were hitting on last year, again, with kind of footwork and being sloppy, he's been intercepted in all 8 games this year. First quarterback with 1 or more interception in each of his first 8 games since the Broncos. Case Keenum did it in 2018, and the first Packers since Irv Comp in 1944. So, yeah, he's not been. He's going to make some incredible plays. He has a high ceiling, but we've seen the floor is still really low, as you pointed out. He's still as sloppy with some of the fundamental stuff. 49ers trying to get healthier, but we pointed this out with them the last couple of years when things were going really well for them. Everybody was really healthy in a lot of spots, and you got to take advantage of it and win one of those times when you're there in the Super Bowl over and over, because it's just not always going to happen that way. There are going to be years like this where things go wrong. Guys don't play as well. Then they start developing bad habits. Like Purdy's been good, but now because he hasn't had like the weapons there, he's trying to do too much sometimes and like holding on to the ball too long. Probably some of the things that kind of held him back a little bit in college, right? Where he's trying to make too many plays. Whereas when he was really successful, all he had to do was just hit the open guy, kind of play within the scheme. And then when there was nothing there on third down, maybe make a play here and there.
I think Purdy is having a great season.
He's having a fantastic year. I think he's had to do way more than he's had before. And then you get sort of like trying to do a little too much. I don't think he's been the fault at all in any way, shape, or form. I've been the most disappointed again, kind of with Shanahan. And I think he just overall, when it comes to winning the big games, making the big adjustments, that kind of thing, he's struggled. Teams underperform. I talked to a stat a couple weeks ago about like post-game win expectancy. It feels kind of like a spot for them though, right? Because Packers kind of snuck away with a pretty easy, like a lucky win last week that they shouldn't have had. 49ers, like, kind of kitchen sink game. got to throw everything at the wall. Any strong opinion here?
See how many third downs the Packers had in the game?
No, I don't think I had. I didn't think I had that down.
5.
5 total.
I mean, like when you see something like that in the scoreboard, that says that the team is moving the ball
really well. They're not even getting to third down.
They're not even getting to third down. And to put it on perspective, they needed a blocked field goal to win the game. Why is that? Jordan Love, he has regressed. And this is what happens a lot. It's happened to CJ Stroud. We put these quarterbacks on a pedestal after one good year, and then teams get film on them. It's a constantly evolving game where you have to learn and get better. Love throws off his back foot. That's what cost them in the championship game. He threw off his back foot, INT. It's really hard for me to trust the Packers when you play the Chicago Bears, only have 5 third downs, and you win the game in a blocked field goal. Flip side, CMC looks slow. He had 3 breakaway runs last game against the Seahawks, where if it was the year before, they're housed. And he's getting caught from behind. As crazy as it sounds, they need to start limiting his work and start using Mason more, because Mason has more of that explosive play ability. And that's kind of the way to attack this Packers defense, is with the running game. Now, what's going on with Kittle? Kittle says 100% he's going to play. Is he though? Like, we don't know if he's going to play or if he's not going to play. For me, if you think the 49ers are going to win this game, you got to kind of get invested in some sort of future with them.
Yeah, the division.
There's no real value in betting him, just because Shanahan's been calling bad games. The only player that looks good is Brock Purdy. Even their defense looks bad. They are just really struggling, and I don't trust them, and I don't trust the Packers. This is a game, even though it's like the quote-unquote 4:30 game, I'm going to have little to no interest in watching it for betting.
Get to Sunday Night Football. Interesting game here. Eagles are a favorite on the road playing the Rammies. Eagles a 2.5-point favorite. Rams, we're just talking about that division now, right in the mix in the NFC West. So the Eagles are quietly playing pretty well. They get a couple extra days off here after the Thursday game. For me, the key with this team, the Fangio defense now, right? We're seeing it start to really ramp up. He's made some adjustments. Like, they're looking good. They're putting more pressure on the quarterback. That's the difference between this team and last year's Eagles team. This team's defense is really, really good. With the Rams, it's sort of the opposite for them. Offensively, they look a lot more competent now because they have their pieces back. Their offensive line, they made a couple tweaks last week. That was probably one of the better versions of the offensive line they've had. And I'm waiting for the 3 here on the Rams side to buy in there. But the Eagles have been playing pretty well, kind of under the radar too, Eric. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I already got it at 3. Like, this is one I got right after the opener. Spot play, you just beat the Commanders on a primetime game, divisional game. You have the Ravens on deck. When we kind of look at it, I know the Fangio defense, I know they have these young corners that are exciting and everything. But when you kind of look at who they've played, this is kind of the first game they've played where they have not 1, but 2 wide receivers. T. Higgins didn't play in the game against the Bengals. And I think, you got Kupp, you got Puka on the outside. I think they're going to be able to move the ball. You got Kyron Williams running the ball. This is probably the best set of weapons that this Fangio defense has gone against. And this is the one that pains me. You ever just kind of get a feeling that someone's going to get hurt?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like Barkley, with how well he's going to be playing, like, when was the last time this guy made it through a season? I kind of feel like, and I don't mean to jinx him, that
no, but
I'm like a little worried about that. I think the Rams are going to be able to run the ball. I'm getting a home dog on Sunday Night Football. Stafford has been playing insanely well, and it's kind of going under the radar. McVay's great as a dog. Hurts, when you look at his split, struggles on the road versus at home. Doesn't cover as much on the road. I love this Eagles team. I think, though, just the spot and everything, it's telling me to fade them. Rams, and we've seen this, Rams are going to be in a position to make the playoffs. I think 2 weeks ago on your podcast, I gave him out plus 330 to make the playoffs. I still like that. If you think the Rams are going to win this bet, you should be betting him to make the playoffs. I think it's just a great matchup for him. So I'll take the Rams here plus the 3. If 2.5 is what's on Bet Online, I'd wait because I bet you it goes up because the Eagles are such a public team.
Yep. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Ravens on the road at the Chargers. Ravens come off that tough loss against Pittsburgh. Chargers come off one of the crazier games where they win. I mean, the Bengals, who I liked in that game, drive into the red zone twice to start. Field goal. Chargers go 3 times, incredibly quick, touchdown, and then kick a field goal. They're up by 21 points. Game flips, and the Bengals just start moving the ball. The Chargers can't do anything to stop them. The Chargers all of a sudden aren't as efficient. And then the Bengals quickly come back, tie the game, and have multiple opportunities to win the game. The end of the game was so weird. Like, nobody wanted to win the game. And it was just like, no, you take it. No, you take it. No, you take it. I still don't know what to think about this Chargers team. They're obviously better than they've been the last couple of years. And we saw how good Herbert can be in those moments. I just don't know if it was more of like a Bengals kind of shooting themselves in the foot, which we see them do repeatedly. The Ravens have their issues. Their issues, I think, are more secondary, like deep down the field. I'm not sure if the Chargers have the weapons to exploit them as much. Like, I don't like the Ravens laying this on at 3. I'm just not still that high on the Chargers yet. Talk to me about this game, Eric. What are your Monday Night Football thoughts?
Well, the Ravens awful against the pass. They give up the most passing yards. But when you kind of look, Quentin Johnson.
That's what I mean. Who's gonna help hit them hard
to do it? I know there's a lot of wide receivers on the trade market, and it kind of stood out to me that the Chargers really didn't do anything.
Go after any of them.
Make a move. It's tough to run on this Ravens team. J.K. Dobbins has been looking good. I just don't trust them to be able to move the ball. Flip side, this Chargers defense, Minter's been elite. I mean, when we talk about coaching candidates, why isn't Minter's name getting any love? He came into Michigan last year, led them to a national championship with his defense. Now he's doing it at the pro level. What's going on with Deontay Johnson? My big thing with the Ravens offense is they don't have the X. They don't have that play-making wide receiver. They made a play for Deontay Johnson, 5th-round draft pick. He's not even getting any touches. He's on the field 5 plays? I just don't understand that move and what happened. You know what I mean? He was a big part of the Steelers, a big part of the Panthers. Now he's at the Ravens, and he literally can't get on the field. Are the Chargers going to be able to stop Derrick Henry? This Ravens team, it's really hard for me to trust them with how bad their defense is. But when you look at
them blow the lead too, right?
Yeah. You look at Lamar's history, laying 3 points or less, it's just been insane. So what I'm going to do in this game is absolutely nothing. I may try to find
a little boom. Will
Disley seems to be getting a lot of targets.
Because someone will exploit it for the Chargers, but I just don't know if overall they have the weapons that would be the type of team to make the Ravens pay. It'll be one of the guys.
I'll try to find something like that, but excuse me, in terms of anything else, I'm just gonna sit it out. I mean, I'll be honest, it seems to me like I'm betting the Thursday game a lot.
We got a few of the early week games.
Not so much the Sunday and Monday night primetime.
Completely agree. We had more of the early games in the week that we had a stronger opinion.
What my motto has been this year. I mean, it didn't work out because I did have the Cowboys on Monday night, but it is what it is. We'll move on to this week.
Eric, buddy, you and I will be back on Sunday, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time for NFL Betting Blitz. We'll have our best bets. We'll have a little more information as far as injuries, some DFS stuff. We'll know what the actives and inactives look like. We'll give everybody a boom fantasy play. And, everyone out there, I'm going to be a lot more active on Blue Sky, which is new. It's popping up. It's kind of like what Twitter was at the very beginning, pretty informational. So check that out. I'm at, it's me, Gino B. Eric's over there. Also, what's your same thing, Eric?
Yeah, just the E-Talk 2 on Sports.
So we'll be over there posting some of our links and stuff too. So check it out. If you want to get on that one too and interact, I'm going to post some exclusive best bets over there every now and then. Try to get a little more following and just some additional stuff that's over there. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel because I will try to make everything here as well. So all the football stuff, individual segments from my podcast where we do the horse racing analysis, where we look at the racing past performances, sometimes the Star Wars and Marvel stuff. Erik and I will get into NBA season once the NFL season is over. So all that kind of stuff, even some shorter individual best bets, they'll be right here on the YouTube channel. Erik and I will usually record these every Wednesday or Thursday. Probably be a little different next week and maybe the next few weeks with holiday season. But buddy, hope you feel a little bit better, and I look forward to talking to you on Sunday, my friend. Anything else you want to mention?
No, good luck in your bets, and let's make some money, guys.
Talk to everybody soon. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.